Welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Reshaping Business with Integrity, the podcast where we explore how to run your business authentically and with integrity. I'm your host, Elisa Bogarts, a business coach and launch manager, helping coaches launch their programs and events that align with their business values. Together, we'll uncover the secrets to building a successful business without sacrificing morals, ethics, authenticity, or heart. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about workshops and why they are the best strategy for coaches to fill their coaching business with their ideal clients. And I have an amazing guest with me, Janelle Anderson. And Janelle is the virtual events visionary. She helps coaches run workshops into client enrollment machines. With over 20 years of leading events and 11 years coaching, she's guided hundreds to attract clients and grow thriving businesses. An ICF Professional Certified Coach and bestselling author, Janelle makes success feel simple, practical, and achievable. Welcome, Janelle. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks, Elisa. I'm excited to be on your show.
Yeah. We met, maybe 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been
something like that. An event, an in-person event. It was like my first in-person. That was a crazy event because I had just quit corporate. Like I had my last day of corporate, I think that week or something. And I think maybe it was the next day I flew down to Vegas for that event and met you there.
No way. I had no idea. Wow.
And then it was like my very first person in-person event. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm a full entrepreneur now. This is crazy.
That must have been crazy to just jump right in the deep end of the pool there.
Yeah. And I think what resonated with us so well was that we had a similar kind of like business journey of like, we both were helping people with confidence and then kind of moved into the business realm. And even now our businesses are aligned in a way because I also help people with their events and things, but we do it in a very different way. So I'm super excited to have you talk about that today. But yeah, tell me about how you got into this field of work and why you're so passionate about it.
So interesting winding journey. I started coaching 11 years ago, and my first audience or niche was women in their midlife years trying to figure out what they wanted to do next, because that's where I was. And so I did that for probably the first couple of years, and then that sort of morphed into women business owners who already knew what they wanted to do, but they needed more confidence in speaking and getting themselves out there, because I was starting to dive into speaking and storytelling. And I found that women entrepreneurs were coming to me, or business owners. And so it was all kinds of businesses, massage therapists and photographers and event planners and all kinds of different women. And we were just working on confidence and speaking and getting out there in front of audiences to promote their business. And so that went on for a while. And then in the meantime, I was in a program of my own, mastermind, and I was learning more about, I was already doing events. I've done events since I started coaching. I did workshops at the local library. And I figured, why not? I can get a group of people in front of me, and it's easier to find clients that way. Mm-hmm. So by this point, I was doing virtual events, virtual workshops, and then learning how to do the longer multi-day events to sell high-end programs. And I ended up being a coach on my mentor's event team.
Oh, cool.
Which, it was great because it gave me a behind the scenes view of how these things are run. It's totally different than when you're attending an event. You don't see all the stuff happening behind the curtain.
Right.
And so I learned more and started to see where I was missing some things and why my events weren't converting. And so I began to make adjustments and try different things and got better and better at it. And my mentor said to me one day, Janelle, you should be teaching people how to do virtual events. I mean, come on, that's what you're doing. And I thought, well, I never thought of that before. Huh? Interesting. He says, people have to speak at events, so you're still going to be teaching them how to speak.
Right.
But, like narrow that into, virtual events. And so that's where Virtual Events Visionary came from. So I started doing that, and I had to almost rebrand myself so people get used to that from the
Hmm.
speaking to that. And then as I was journeying through that, I realized, wait a minute, I really just want to work with coaches.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love working
because
with
too many
coaches.
coaches give up. Yeah, coaches
Yeah.
need so much. And then it became early stage coaches because that's who I'm attracting. Coaches that have been in business maybe the first 3 to 5 years and they're still trying to chase that next client. They don't understand funnels like I didn't, and they don't know how to really market and they don't want to sell, all those things.
Yeah.
So at this point, I had a really great model that I was using, a structure for my business that I learned from my mentor. And I thought, you know what, this would be great for coaches. And so then naturally, because I've always done workshops, and that's how I always start, is I offer a workshop, and that's my initial way to meet people. Then I thought, well, that's what I should be doing is teaching coaches how to do workshops. And then from there, then they can build their business. So that's how I
Hmm.
landed on workshops. And now I'm being called the workshop queen. Yeah.
I love that.
So it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so interesting how things just kind of like ebb and flow, and you get a suggestion from somebody and you're like, oh, maybe I will go in that direction. And you just kind of get
Yeah.
more clarity on who you actually want to work with. I always remember thinking that too. Like people would say that, like,
Hmm.
just not who you could help, but who do you love working with? Who are your favorite people? And then target those people because those are the people you love working with, to be more
Exactly.
successful if you're happy with your client. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it
Yeah.
kind of works
Yeah.
both ways.
So, and when you do that, of course, you become more visible and you stand out more because, if somebody's talking to you and they're saying, I need to do workshops or I want to learn how to do workshops, you can be like, oh, the workshop queen.
Right.
And she also can do other virtual events, but that's
Hmm.
like a little broader. So over the years, I've gotten more and more and more narrow and niched, as they say, around
Yeah.
this one specific thing. And it's made a huge difference in my business because now
Yeah.
it's like workshops, it's like one thing.
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And then from there is when you can expand it, but that's how you kind of
Yeah,
get
of
people
course. Of
in.
course. I
Yeah.
do much more than that, but how do you
Yeah.
get people to notice you and to how do you stand out from the crowd? So
Hmm.
it took me a long time. And so I really understand the coach's journey
Right. Yeah.
because I've been on a long, winding road.
And as you've been doing this on this whole like long winding road and getting to where you are now, where you're like this workshop queen and doing very well in your business, how would you be able to kind of do that and still like remain you and still sort of like as you scale, just scale on your terms?
Exactly. And such a good question because we as coaches, we're heart-centered, we are service-oriented, we are really passionate about transforming people's lives. That's why we became a coach. And so we're bothered a lot of times by having to sell or having to
Mhm.
promote. Some of my clients, they'll tell me all the time, I don't like the word promote. I don't want to sell because those words have these connotations to them that feel inauthentic, right? That feel fake or feel pushy. And so I struggled with that too for a long time, and I wasn't very good at it because of that. So along the way, I remember especially when I was like learning how to speak on stages, like not just do workshops, but speak and present a message. I struggled with that because I have a very soft voice. I'm a very gentle soul. I kind of go with the flow. I'm not highly energetic. I don't take the stage like a fireball.
Yeah.
And and
I
I
know some people
don't
trying to
have,
train you to do that. I'm like, that's just not
yeah. And
me.
you watch these speakers and you think, I can't do that. And I've
Yeah.
tried, and it just exhausted me for one thing. And it did not come across very well because people can tell when you're inauthentic. They can tell when you're faking it or you're not yourself. And that turns people
Mhm.
off. And then I was watching Brene Brown. I love Brene Brown. And I was watching a YouTube channel, a YouTube episode of her just doing her thing, right? And I thought, wow, she's just talking. She's talking in her normal voice. She's just who she is, and yet what she's saying is so powerful, and people love it. And in that moment, I was like, I can just be me then. I don't have to be like Tony Robbins, or
Right.
I can be calm and I can be quiet and just me. And then I won't run out of energy. I won't be like drained at the end of it. It won't feel forced. And so I started just, before I would start an event or get on a stage, I would just remind myself that I can just stand in my power, who I am, and deliver out of a heart of service, that I have something to give my audience that's a gift to them. Like my focus changed from me to them. It's about them.
Mm.
And I can just be me. And it really helped me a lot to scale, because it got me a lot more attention. It creates better connection. And people started to tell me, I love listening to your talks, and you're so real, and you're so down to earth, and you're so calm, and I just love it. And I said, really? So all along, I thought those things were flaws or faults, and turned out they were my superpowers. And
Right.
then I was able to lean into it even more. And, it is true. People love to be with people that are authentic and real. You'll attract a lot more of your audience that way, which is, of course, going to help you scale.
Right.
And
Yeah,
as I was
yeah.
like going towards that scaling journey too, I'll tell you this, like I would look at people that were 7, 8 figures, like the big people in the industry, the big kahunas. And I would think, man, I'd like to be at that level someday. But I struggled for a few years of, not quite hitting 6 figures, and always like being right below that. And I realized that I was carrying this story in my head that I didn't belong at the big people's table.
Mm.
It wasn't quite good enough. I didn't deserve to be there. And worked on that story for a while, and just flipped it around to I can be at any table I want. I can just be me. And
Yeah.
and here I am now, 6 figures and scaling beyond that. And I think it really does come down to just being me, and being authentic, and being genuine, and
Yeah.
sharing, what I do and what I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's so interesting when you were saying about the whole like calming thing, because I get comments about that about me now as well. And I think I always thought before that um I don't know, that it was just like the introverted, quiet, maybe boring or whatever, right? And then, but the people actually, and then I noticed like even because in what we do, like helping people launch and do these workshops and do like there's a lot of work to do with
Mhm.
that, and it can be really overwhelming. And so actually having a coach or someone working with you that is that calm presence, so as soon as you get into that calm space and you're like, okay, I can calm down a little bit, so I think that our clients kind of appreciate that, and like that's what I noticed. And I even like I attract a lot of people with ADHD. And I think it's
Wow.
because of that, because they're like, oh, you're so organized and you're calm. And, in their minds, they're a little bit more like there's lots going on. And so yeah, it's interesting how
Yeah, it
you,
calms them down. Yeah. And you are very calming. And it's interesting. We kind of had the same thing. Like, I'm going to be boring. And yet that's not true at all. People will lean in and love what you share. It's really believing in yourself that what you have to share is valuable. If you believe it, then they'll believe it too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Just give people a
yeah,
space to calm down, give them a space to feel like, okay, she's got this under control. Ah, what a relief.
yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So how do you think that, when you're working with somebody, how, like, in terms of kind of like, even sometimes when people think of the word workshop, that can immediately put them into overwhelm. So how can they like simplify that sort of entire process and reduce that overwhelm and that confusion?
Yeah, especially when you're just starting out, it can be overwhelming. And I teach a simple method. There's a framework I created over the years. As I was working with my mentor and watching all these other event hosts, I started realizing, here's the structure they're following. Here's the secret formula. And
Mm.
once you have that down and you start designing your workshops with that, it becomes a lot easier. And and that's what I teach. I started off doing workshops on all kinds of topics. I did strengths, finding your strengths, figuring out what you're going to do in retirement, being healthy, every topic I could possibly think of. I even did one called How to Talk to Anyone. And I attracted a room full of introverts who wanted to know how to carry on a conversation.
Mhm.
And it attracted the local newspaper. They sent a reporter and a photographer.
Oh,
And
no way.
it was a phenomenal event, but nobody became my clients because they weren't my right audience. And I even did one called the Wonder Woman Workshop, and it was super fun. But so I was just trying all these different topics that didn't lead anywhere, and they were just random topics, which
Mm,
created a lot more work for myself because then I had to create the whole thing all over again next time, all new content, all new slides, all this stuff. And then I finally realized that when I was watching other people who were successful at it and converting well and getting people there, their workshops were always the same pretty much, or their webinars,
mm,
same topic. Maybe they changed a few things. So then I realized what I need is to focus on one core topic that is my core thing I do that leads people to the next step with me and not something random. And that's where it simplified everything. I find that a
mm,
lot of times when people are doing workshops, they pour way too much content into it. They work themselves up into a frenzy because they're trying to be perfect and have perfect slides and follow their script exactly. And they're so focused on the content and their own delivery that they miss something super important. And that is the connection with the people in the room.
mm,
So you can make it a very simple format around one thing. I call it the one thing principle.
mm,
You want to think about what's the one major breakthrough or one aha moment, one thing you want them to leave your workshop with that they really got a hold of. And this is hard to do because we all have a lot of content.
yeah.
And I've had to peel it back and peel it back. And I'm still giving them too much. So I think of it as an appetizer. So they'll want the meal, which is the thing you're going to offer as the next step.
Right.
So, but what happens, and I get this question a lot, is like, well, if I only talk about one thing, it's only going to take me 20 minutes or it's only going to take me 5 minutes.
Right.
No, the simple structure is you have a welcome everybody in, getting them chatting right away. It's all about them feeling a part of the event. So right away, you want to create that connection, welcome them in the room, ask them some questions. Oh, you're from Virginia. Oh, you're from, like get the conversation going. And then you just give us an overview. Today, we're going to focus on this thing, and I'm going to give you 3 tips. And then you tell a story about your journey with that or why it's so important, why this topic. And that takes up, maybe the first 15 minutes. And
Right.
then you only have you have one topic. For example, I've got a client who is he's a leadership performance coach, but now he's calling himself the courageous conversation coach because
Mm,
even though with leadership, he can teach on a lot of things,
yeah.
but he's focusing on having courageous conversations. Now that's narrowed down. So even with that, you could talk about listening. You could talk about uh, communicating clearly. You could talk about, focusing on the issues and not on feelings, like all the different things a leader would need to be able to do to have these conversations at work with his team or his boss or his colleagues or whatever, his
Right.
customers. So he could do a workshop on a bunch of things, but that's still
Hmm.
too much.
Right.
So what if he did a workshop just on how to listen?
Mm,
Then he could teach 3 things about listening and have them practice a little bit.
yeah.
So now they're interacting with you and they're doing a little bit with the content. So that's how they make it their own. And that's how they leave feeling really fulfilled. Like, wow, that was a good, yummy appetizer. Now I need all the other things that have to do with conversations. So,
Right. Yeah. I
so
love
he
that.
leads them through this one thing around listening, lets them play around with it a little bit and figure out and find out how good it feels to use this one skill he's teaching them. And then he says, hey, there's a lot more. Come and join my program and we'll work on all these other ones. And by the end of it, you're going to be amazing at work and people are going to love you. Your team's going to be, all this, all the outcomes.
Right.
You see
Yeah,
how
yeah.
that like creates space for you? You don't need a lot of content then.
Mm,
And you're only focused on one thing. And that makes the whole thing so much simpler as far as the content piece. Now, of course,
yeah.
you have to promote. There's a lot of other things
Yeah.
to it. But when you're just starting out, I teach my framework teaches you how to do it in a very simple way. You don't need a huge amount of tech. You can do a simplified version. You can start promoting it just with who you know and
Mhm.
ask maybe a couple people to send out an email or two for you. You can, post on social media, and then you can also call people, send them direct
Yeah.
messages. There's all kinds of different ways to get people in the room. And just know that your first time, your first few workshops there'll be things that go wrong. It won't be perfect. Don't worry about it being perfect because even if you have like two people in the room, you're going to still learn so much by doing it and you're going to refine it as you go every time you do it. So I used my workshops as testing ground. I didn't
Mm,
wait till they were perfect. I tried things out to see how they would work. And then I said, oh, this didn't work and this did. So let me try something new. And
yeah.
then it becomes an asset for your business that you can do every single month and create a system of bringing in new clients and getting yourself out there.
Yeah. And I love what you said about the content piece about you teach, but then you want it to be an experience. So get them to do
Yes.
something, right? And get them to
Yes.
practice and then get them to share. Or maybe you could do a hot seat coaching or something like that. Like make
Yes.
it interactive because sometimes just like the one-way dialogue can be too much. And then when you feel like when it's only one way and you're just teaching, that's when you feel like you have to have tons of content. Then you give way too much. And then people
Exactly.
left like,
Yeah. And then you end up
ah,
talking at them
right.
instead of with them, and their cameras will go off. And the thing
Right.
is, this is a great mindset shift around that because I know a lot of people
Mm,
that I've worked with are so nervous that they're so focused on their content and they're not interacting at all because they're so nervous. But remember this, people they aren't coming to your workshop for information. They can get that anywhere.
right.
They're coming for a transformation. They're coming to experience something. I always ask people, what's the number one reason that you come to events, virtual events? People are going to them all the time, sometimes 3 to 5 a week. Why?
Yeah.
And of course, they want to learn something, but the top two is I want to learn something. But the second thing, and sometimes the first thing they say is I want to connect.
Mm,
People want to feel like they are seen and heard and valued. And we have this epidemic of loneliness and disconnect in our world. And here
right.
you have a great opportunity. So that should be a part of your whole plan is, like you said, add that in. What am I going to have them do that will get them involved? And, you can do all kinds of things. The hot seats, you can do breakout rooms, you can have them do a little exercise and share. You can put this stuff in the chat and then call them out by name and say like, oh, Lisa, I see you nodding your head. Yeah, you get that, right? Call their name out. When you start doing that, people will show up on camera and
Mm,
they will feel seen and heard and like they are a part of the event instead of just a spectator. They're actually participating. And
right.
studies have shown that people will remember what you said and what you taught them 95% more than
Yes.
if they're just listening, if they're
Wow.
actually a part of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Very
guess what?
cool.
Then they're going to want to keep working with you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You make a connection with them. Right. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
they want to keep going. Awesome.
Hmm.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
the framework and kind of figuring out, yeah, that content and kind of how to structure it in
Yeah.
a way that keeps because all that will keep them engaged. It'll keep them make them
Mhm.
stay the whole time and like likely convert more and also
Yeah.
yeah, they'll remember what you do. And even then, if it's if you're able to give them that transformation and that's what they take away and that's all that they take away, then that's
Mhm.
that's amazing. You're making a difference in the world, which is kind of what we're here
Yes.
to do anyway. So
Yes. So
yeah.
since you said that, do we have time for me to tell a quick story?
Yeah, a quick one.
It'll be quick. I was running a 3-day event. This woman was in the room. Her name was Bernadette. I didn't know her. She was off camera and totally silent for the first day and a half. Hardly knew she was there. We were talking about storytelling and how to write your own story, how to find your story, why stories matter, and all of that. Halfway through the second day, all of a sudden she pops on camera, raises her hand, And as soon as she came on camera, I could see that this was a woman who'd been through a lot. You could see, the lines in her face of just, a hard life. She looked very heavy and sad. And all she said was, I don't have a story. And I'm like, I could have said, oh, well, then just go do my outline and do my story arc and do the exercises and it'll come to you. It'll be okay. And I could have moved on. I could have stuck to the content and moved on. But here was a moment where I could transform somebody's life. I could have a huge impact on somebody's life. And so sometimes you have to let go of your content for a few minutes and let go of your plan and be with someone. So I asked her, because I believe everyone has a story to share. So I just asked her, tell me a little bit about your life. And she starts telling the story of having been homeless, living in her car for months, feeling completely dejected by society, completely in the pit, right? Like the lowest she's ever been, feeling like she didn't matter. And this went on for months. And then somehow she crawled out of that hole and had found herself a job as a caregiver and a place to live. So
Amazing.
when she came to my workshop, that's where she was. And tears streaming down everybody's face. And I said, you have a powerful story. What do you mean you don't have a story? Of course you have a. And so we encouraged her, like you have so much to share with people and what do you really want to do? And she had such a heart to help. And so by the end of the event, she had come out of her shell. She was on camera all the time. She was glowing. And she announced to the whole room, I'm going to go start a coaching business. I'm going to become a coach.
That's awesome.
And she did not become my client. This is the thing about transforming someone's life inside of an event. Even if they don't become your client, which you just said, even if that's all, it's worth it. So she didn't become my client. And a couple years later, just recently, actually, I saw a post on Facebook from her and I'm like, oh, there's Bernadette. And she announced to the world, I am launching my coaching business. And I was
Nice.
like, oh my gosh, I had a
Yay.
part in that, like that moment with her that changed everything. And so she didn't become my client, but I was able to be a part of a huge pivot for her, a huge transformation. And other people in the room watched that, and some of them did become my clients.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Because you were
yeah,
able to, yeah, help her and see that and have
yeah,
that time with her where people are like, oh, I want that.
yeah,
How much
yeah. So when you can do that inside of your events, like you will naturally, when you make your offer, have people sign up because we're talking about authenticity
Right.
because they see that. So make time for that, which means less content.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners where they can find you online.
So I have a website, virtualeventsvisionary.com. They can find me there. Lots of stuff on there. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook, although I'm spending more time on LinkedIn lately. And it's Emerging Life Coaching. That's the name of my business, Emerging Life Coaching. If you look up my name, you'll probably find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And I have a YouTube channel. And I have a weekly little show called Speakeasy Cafe. And if you just do at Janelle.Anderson there on YouTube, you'll find me there.
And you had a gift as well, right? That you were gonna
I
talk
did.
about, I think, your workshop that's coming up in, yeah, or you have a
Yes.
monthly.
Yeah, my gift is a guide. It's called Workshops That Win Clients.
Nice.
The simple 7-step framework to turning your workshops into a client enrollment machine. So I take you through my 7 steps. It's called Clients, the Clients Framework. It's an acronym. And I share with you all those pieces in there. And then if you download it, you'll also get a free ticket to my workshop, which is a client enrollment workshop. So we're going to talk about how to create a workshop that becomes a client enrollment machine for you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And to finish us off, do you have any final words of wisdom?
Well, we talked about scaling authentically, but also workshops being a strategy. And I would say for especially new coaches, so many new coaches are out there just, and this is what most of them will say to me. They'll say, how do I find clients? And I'll ask them, well, how are you trying to find them? I'm posting on social media, but nothing happens. Social media is probably one of the least effective, but
Mm,
doing a workshop, doing an event where you bring your people into a room with you where you can connect and get to know them, that's the best. And also for that question, how do I find clients? I always say it's the wrong question. The question is, how do I help my clients find me?
mm.
And when you do a workshop every month, you're helping them find you. You don't have to go chasing after them.
That's awesome. Thank you, Janelle. It's been such a lovely conversation. Thank you for everything that you shared. And yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.